In 2011, Texas's power grid froze, and hundreds of thousands of people lost electricity in the cold. Regulators studied exactly what went wrong and wrote it down. Power plants that hadn't been prepared for extreme cold were failing, and preparing one plant properly would cost somewhere between $50,000 and $500,000. That fix was never required. 10 years later, almost the identical failure happened again, this time. The damage ran past $26 billion by the most conservative estimate anyone has published. This is financial close, and this is what it costs to leave a known risk unpriced. In February 2011, a cold snap hit Texas and its power grid buckled, plants tripped offline exactly when the state needed them most, and rolling blackouts followed. Federal regulators, FERC and NERC, studied the failure jointly and published a clear recommendation. Power plants needed to be winterized against exactly this kind of cold. It wasn't a mystery. It was written down with regulators' names on it. The recommended fix wasn't exotic, insulating equipment, heating critical components, the kind of preparation cold climate grids do routinely. Regulators' own 2011 estimate put the cost at somewhere between $50,000 and $500,000 per plant. But in Texas, winterization stayed a recommendation, not a requirement. Nothing in the rules forced any plant to spend that money, so for many, nobody did. A decade went by. The grid kept running, mostly without incident, the way unpriced risks usually do, right up until the moment they don't. The warning from 2011 didn't disappear. It just sat there, a known vulnerability with a knowable price tag, while the cost of ignoring it quietly compounded in the background. In February 2021, a severe winter storm hit Texas, and the same failure mode from a decade earlier played out again, except this time it cascaded. Unprepared plants tripped offline across the state, one after another, pushing the grid to the edge of total collapse. Millions of Texans lost power for days, in freezing temperatures, because the fix identified in 2011 had never become mandatory. The cost estimates vary widely, and it's worth showing that range honestly rather than picking the biggest number. The federal government's own conservative tally puts direct damages at $26.5 billion or more. Independent economic estimates go much higher, some put the full cost, including economic disruption, between $130 and nearly $200 billion. Texas's state health department confirmed 246 deaths tied to the storm. Some independent researchers estimate the true toll was higher. However you total it, the fix that regulators priced at well under $1 million per plant was skipped, and the bill that followed ran into the billions. This isn't just a Texas story. Research from the Global Commission on Adaptation and the World Bank has put real numbers on the general pattern. Building climate and extreme weather resilience into infrastructure from the start typically adds only around 3% to the upfront cost, and returns roughly $4 in avoided damage for every dollar spent over the life of the asset. Skip that 3%, and you're not saving money. You're deferring a much larger bill to a date nobody's put on the calendar yet. A fix that costs a few $100,000 is easy to postpone, right up until the day it isn't. The gap between what resilience costs upfront and what its absence costs later doesn't stay the same size. It compounds quietly for as long as nobody pays it. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.